The Baltimore Ravens are coming off a season where they once again came up short, finishing with a record of 10-7, but falling in the wildcard round to the Cincinnati Bengals where they lost 24-17, so really just coming up short of advancing to the next round. Now, coming into the offseason, there were so many question marks surrounding this team, and many wondered what direction this team was going to be headed in for 2023. And after a questionable start to the offseason, we're finally starting to see the Ravens blueprint come to life. In this video, I'll be breaking down everything that the Ravens have done to start this offseason, but more importantly, what they need to do next in order to shock the world next season and potentially make some noise in the playoffs. However, before we jump into today's video, make sure you guys smash that like button. It helps out the channel so much. So let's see if we can get the video up to 400 likes. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're new. I will be covering the Ravens and the rest of the NFL all year long. So join the family. And one last thing, comment down below, who do you believe is the most underrated player on this Ravens team right now? Without any further ado, let's jump right into today's video. Okay, so before we take a deep dive into every signing that the Ravens have made to start this offseason, let's quickly just take a look back at 2022 and see where the Ravens ranked compared to the rest of the NFL, just so we can get a better understanding of where they needed to improve the most coming into the offseason. Offensively, the Ravens were very one-dimensional, and to be honest, they were very easy to read by opposing teams just because they loved to run the ball. But even with that being said, their offense was still pretty solid, and even when teams knew that they were running the ball, it was still so hard to defend. Overall, the Ravens ranked number 20 in points per game, number 16 in yards per game, number 12 in third down conversion percentage, number 30 in red zone scoring percentage, number 24 in touchdowns per game. Obviously, there are a ton of areas that they needed to improve on just by looking at that. However, let's take a deeper look to see where the majority of their problems actually stemmed from. Now, like we said before, their rushing attack was pretty much unstoppable. And even when teams, like I said before, knew that they were running the ball, they still couldn't stop it. Ranking number 2 in rush yards per game, number 6 in rush attempts per game, number 3 in rush yards per game. Number 3 in rush yards per attempt, and number 20 in rushing touchdowns per game. Overall, a dominant rushing attack compared to a very underwhelming passing attack, which they ranked number 26 in completion percentage, number 22 in pass yards per attempt, number 28 in pass yards per game, or pass attempts per game, my bad. Number 28 in pass yards per game, number 23 in interception percentage, and number 21 in sack percentage. Now, obviously, if you're a Ravens fan, you know where the issue came from, but I have some really good news. The Ravens have already made some solid moves in order to improve this aspect of their game next season. Firstly, the Ravens let go of former offensive coordinator Greg Roman. And if you ask almost any Ravens fan, this was the first step in the right direction for this entire offense. This offense needed a breath of fresh air, and a new coordinator who is coming over here, Todd Monken, I think that's how you say his name, should be able to provide a sense of just a new direction and just a breath of fresh air, like a relief. Now, with that being said, the Ravens still had a massive hole, or maybe just a giant question mark that they needed to get answered. The whole Lamar Jackson situation. Now, as the days go by, things are starting to look better and better each and every single day. And it looks more likely than not that we'll be seeing Lamar Jackson back in Baltimore next season. Now, a big reason I believe this is simply because of the big signing the Ravens just made yesterday. Odell Beckham Jr. is on his way to Baltimore to play with the Ravens, and he is here to help the Ravens smooth things over with Lamar and potentially get him back or under contract for the next couple of years. Odell, overall, is still a very talented player, coming off last year where he didn't play at all, but he still has a lot left in the tank. You can tell watching him run routes and, training that this dude is hungry, he's ready, and he's ready to prove the entire world wrong. I mean, there's not too much to say about Odell, other than the fact that he's a very reliable weapon and can be counted upon when you throw him the ball his way. He has one of the greatest, most unbelievable catch radiuses in the entire league, and he's going to bring that over here to Baltimore, which they do need. Over his long career so far, Odell has a total of 531 receptions, over 7,300 yards, 56 touchdowns while averaging roughly 14 yards per catch. This should drastically improve this passing attack going forward. However, the Ravens didn't stop there. They also added another former wide receiver of the New England Patriots, Nelson Agholor, another speedster who can, just be a playmaker at time. Overall, just another deep threat for this offense. Maybe someone you get the ball to on a screen and can make something big happen down the field. Now, over his career, he's put up a total of 340 catches, 4,200 yards, 31 touchdowns, while averaging roughly 12.5 yards per catch. As long as they can bring Lamar back for 2023, we should see such an improved passing game next season, as well as a deadly run game. When I sit here and take a look at this offense, I see a ton more weapons and overall just so much more potential in this offense. You got Odell, you got Rashad Bateman coming back, Nelson Agholor, Devin Duvernay, who took a big step up last year. You got Tylan Wallace still developing. You got James Prochet, Andy Isabella, Shamar Bridges, and they're probably going to add even another wide receiver in this upcoming draft. And overall, offensively, I like where they're headed or where they are right now. I like tight end position, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, amazing. Offensive line is pretty good, but there is some work to do. They don't have a backup left guard. They don't have a backup center, so look for them to cement those roles in the draft as well. Running back situation, you got J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, still got Justice Hill. Listen, I like this offense and where they're headed, but there's still room to improve with that being said. Now, before we jump into the defensive side of the ball, make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're enjoying the video so far, I will be covering the entire NFL offseason, which includes the rest of free agency, the draft, any trades that happen. So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. I'll be keeping you guys updated all year long. But without any further ado, let's get into the defense. So defensively, the Ravens were actually very solid last year as well, and we knew coming into the offseason that this defense could drastically change with some big names leaving in free agency, especially guys like Calais Campbell and Marcus Peters. We knew right from day one the Ravens would have to fill some holes. However, with all the Lamar Jackson things going on, the Ravens haven't really done anything defensively. Now, the good news is the Ravens team was really deep defensively. They were just really good last year, and they're deep. They have a lot of guys who can step up and just become better players next season. Now, last season they ranked number 3 in points allowed per game, number 6 in yards allowed per game, number 4 in third down conversion percentage allowed, number 4 red zone scoring percentage allowed, and number 2 in touchdowns allowed per game. Overall, this defense was amazing and so hard to game plan against because they were just so versatile. Again, but let's take a deeper look. The Ravens' rush defense ranked number 3 in yards allowed per rush, number 3 in rush yards allowed per game, and number 6 in rush touchdowns allowed per game. Compared to their pass defense, which was it wasn't as dominant as you may think. Ranking number 27 in completion percentage, number 16 in passing yards allowed per attempt, number 23 in passing yards allowed per game, and number 15 in interception percentage. Now, these stats are a little bit misleading just because the Ravens' run defense was so good, it forced teams to pass the ball way more. So those numbers are a little bit more skewed than you may think, so keep that in mind as well. But as for what the Ravens need to do next, because like I said, they didn't do anything. I don't think they've added a defensive player all free agency, which is something they need to maybe start thinking about here over the next few weeks before we get into the draft. But like I said, the good news is the draft is coming up, and they definitely have some positions of need, including defensive tackle and definitely some cornerbacks as well. To be completely honest, the front seven for the Ravens still looks so good, and with a few guys developing going into next season, guys like Kyle Hamilton and Odafe Owa and Brandon Stevens and David Ajabo, they might be asked to play a much bigger role in 2023, and if they can improve from last season, this defense will still be one of the best in the entire league. But with all that being said, there is still a ton of work for the Ravens to do going forward. Signing Odell and Nelson Agholor is a start, but now they have to get Lamar under contract, and from there they need to dominate this draft. There is a ton of talent at defensive back and defensive tackle. Two of their biggest needs, there's a ton of, space or a ton of guys in the draft that they can definitely steal. Now, just to name a few, there's a guy like Emmanuel Forbes, who is a cornerback. He is amazing. A very good playmaker. Could come in here and be a day one cornerback for the Ravens. You also got Joey Porter Jr., Devon Witherspoon. And there's also a defensive tackle that I really like named, I think his name was Isa Ika or something like that. I forget what his name is at the moment, but he was a really good defensive tackle prospect that I like, and look for them to add at least some more defensive ends as depth. Definitely defensive tackle. You got Michael Pierce, you got Broderick Washington, but I think they need depth behind those guys. I like Odafe, I like David Ojabo, Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith, Malik Harrison. You got Tyus Bowser, you got Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams, Marlon Humphrey. But I do think, Demarion Williams and Brandon Stevens, maybe even Jalen Armour Davis, need to improve a little bit going into next season. But as of right now, I think they have a solid roster, but still some room to grow. Now, with that being said, let me know in the comment section who you personally want the Ravens to either go sign in free agency or draft in just a couple of weeks. The offseason is nowhere near over, so there's still a ton of work to be done. Let me know in the comment section down below who you want the Ravens to target. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. If we do get this video up to 400 likes, I'll drop a video on the Ravens' potential draft targets over the next couple of weeks as well. Just hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, join the family, and I'll be seeing you guys very soon for the next Ravens video.